Well, we're about ready for Dallas with the Eagles issuing their final injury report, while Jalen Carter got in some last-minute trash talk and A.J. Brown sees all-pro potential in Kelee Ringo. So could we see more of an increased role? And how about Nolan Smith, especially with his play of late? Plus Nick Sirianni's big regret on a recent roster move. But first, let's run it. Alright, let's start with the final injury report with everyone getting a clean bill of health for the Dallas game, and Zach Cunningham getting in a full practice, Dallas Goedert being officially activated, and even Slay, who missed Wednesday and Thursday's practices, was a full go on Friday. The only iffy one is Julio Jones after only getting in a limited practice, but the report is number 80 is set to be available. And speaking of numbers, Shaq Leonard got in another practice while also switching back to number 53, thanks to it being vacated after the Eagles waived linebacker Christian Elliss.
Excuse me. I believe you have my stapler.
Okay, well, that's really the only positive in the situation, since I already felt this way, but Nick Sirianni sounds like he regrets the decision to release the 24-year-old.
We knew he had some good special teams tape out there. I thought he played a good game the other day as well. We were hoping, but you know what? Happy for Christian to land on his feet. But obviously we were hoping to get him back. But yeah, he's in a good place, and I wish him best of luck. We'll have a bunch of different guys that are taking different spots, right, on all his different teams. Really excited about Ben and what he's been able to contribute to the special teams. But we'll miss Christian's contribution to it, and we've been really good on special teams this year.
Look, it's not like Ben Van Sumeren's been bad on special teams, but let me just say this feels like a failure. I get that everyone makes mistakes, yet if the Birds really were hoping to keep Elliss around, I don't understand waiving one of your top special teams players. I don't know. Hopefully we didn't just the bed on that one. Yet while we're here, Dak Prescott didn't miss an opportunity to make fun of the Birds. After doing a commercial for colon screening and putting a sticker on his sample collection device of an eagle.
A piece of crap.
A piece of crap!
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But hopefully we can get to Mr. Here We Go Sunday, and hey, at least Jalen Carter's confident after the team's been emphasizing more intensity this week.
It's going to be up there. We plan on coming with all the physicality we bring as a group, as a D-line, DNs, and stuff like that. Just come out there, we go see who will be the most physical.
Okay, is that a little too much trash talk? I mean, I get it that we got to stay humble, especially after last week, but personally, I don't mind a little back and forth, especially against the Cowgirls. Now, ideally, we see some other Philly dogs make a splash too. Yeah, you knew I was going to bring up Nolan Smith. And even though Nolan hasn't made quite the impact in the pass rush yet, I don't think you can deny he's played very solid in run support. However, shockingly, his snap percentage hasn't gone up much at all, even with Derek Barnett being released, to which Sirianni suggested that may not change.
Games are tight, and you want the best guys in at the end, and obviously, with Hassan and with Sweaty, those are the guys that have been our closers, and we wanted them in those particular cases. Has nothing to do with Nolan, and what he's doing is just he's behind BG, Hassan, and Sweat, and then when the games are close and the games are tight, we're going to roll with those guys. That doesn't mean his role won't increase, but he's in a deep room. But he's contributing. He's contributing the reps he contributes at defensive end, and I think he's playing really physical and good on special teams as well. So it's really more of the type of room he's in and the game, the way the games are going, as opposed to what Nolan's doing. I'm excited about Nolan and that he's here and that he's continuing to develop.
Well, obviously, I don't like hearing that. All right, even I, the biggest Nolan stan out there, can't deny the fact that you obviously want your closers to finish out the game. And no doubt, Sweaty and Haas have come up big, as we've seen, yet I'd still argue getting Nolan some snaps earlier in the game to keep the big guns fresh for the fourth quarter would pay dividends. But go ahead, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know I can get carried away with Nolan sometimes. Of course, there's another rookie we haven't talked about in forever, but it sounds like we should have been. After A.J. Brown went on record about Kelee Ringo's play on the scout team, saying, Kelee switches up the looks and is really talented. I'm trying to push him because the sky's the limit for him. He gets better each and every day I line up against him. The thing is, I don't really know what's inside of him. That's the scary part. Once he figures it out, he definitely can be an all-pro guy. That's high praise, but I'm just being honest. I definitely get better every single time I line up against him.
He's good. With my help, he could be the best.
Now, if you're like me, I was like, wow, did he just say that? So the question is, why haven't we seen Ringo outside of him being an effective gunner on special teams so far? And Anthony DiBona from Outside DiBirds came on to provide his take on the 21-year-old talent.
I mean, the fact that a receiver the caliber of A.J. Brown is praising Kelee Ringo is good enough for me to buy into it. So that obviously means a ton because A.J. Brown's not really the type to just throw praise out there. They kind of have to just pull his leg even to get him something to say nice about a fellow receiver or whatever. So for him to praise Ringo, it's kind of a big deal. Kelee Ringo will always have a special place in my heart because I'm gonna pat myself on the back here. I was the first one to report that he had a top 30 visit with the Eagles. So it's pretty cool that he actually ended up there.
I forgot about that. That is very true. I can echo that. Yes, I can agree. That was you. I forgot.
But when you look at Kelee Ringo, he has the size that if you could create a cornerback in Madden, you would make him look like Kelee Ringo. I mean, 6'2", 200 plus pounds. He's good speed. A lot of people questioned his hips. That's why they were saying if he's going to play safety. But at the same time, I feel like he's kind of just getting that Nakobe Dean treatment that the Eagles gave him last year, where like they're putting him on ice. He's not going to play slot corner because he just doesn't have the speed or the hips for that. So he wasn't going to be thrown in there. And you're not going to go behind Slay or Bradbury's back and put him out there because they're probably going to take offense to that. The only time they probably would have used him was when Bradbury was out or Slay was out. But they just prefer Job there because he has that year of experience, and it was a little earlier in the season. It would be interesting to see if an outside corner got hurt now, if Ringo would get a chance there. But I think they're kind of just putting him on ice and then seeing what he can do next year because there's a chance that maybe Bradbury or Slay isn't back, but you never know. But I think it's obviously great to hear A.J. Brown talk about him like that. It can't be a bad thing that he's praising him. So I'm excited to see what he does moving forward.
All right, I agree. Like Anthony said, if it's good enough for AJ, it's good enough for me. Plus, I certainly wouldn't mind Ringo playing a few snaps. Although I get it if you don't want to put him out there for Slay or Bradbury for the most part. Yet I had several comments asking about Ringo recently, so there you go. And even though he's not playing much or at all, he's getting absolutely invaluable experience lining up against AJ, and it wouldn't shock me to see him being one of our starters next season. But interested to hear y'all's takes on this, and what are your thoughts after seeing AJ's comments? All right, it's time for the Week 14 picks, and yeah, last week wasn't great where we went 1-2, but this week I'm rolling with the over 33 in the New York Jets game versus the Texans, and I'll also take the under 48.5 when Kansas City hosts Buffalo. Finally, I've got to go with the Birds plus 3.5 since they've never lost when I've gone to a game at AT&T Stadium. As a reminder, you can get in on the action with my friends at BetMGM, where if you use my link in the description, you can get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Okay, I played the clip a second ago of my conversation with Anthony DiBona of Outside DiBirds. And by the way, if you're not following this dude on X, then you're really missing out because he's on top of just about every single transaction the Birds make, and usually before it happens. So naturally, we went into all the current issues surrounding the Eagles and what to think about it. Where are we at? I'm curious to get your thoughts on just the state of the Eagles. You know, we're 10-2, top of the NFC, but in a weird, strange way, it feels like we're not. I mean, I know you've seen it, and I've seen it. Twitter's been crazy. Comment section has been going nuts of fire Brian Johnson, fire Desai, blow it up. But it's like, we're 10-2. Like, shouldn't there be a little bit more of a, like, temper the let's get rid of everybody, let's blow it up now? I know there's some concerns, but curious to get your take on just overall the state of things, what you see for this team.
Like you said, it's just we're 10-2. At the end of the day, I know hasn't been pretty, especially last week. A lot of the wins haven't been pretty. They're not really blowing anybody out of the water, and that's what a lot of people want to revert back to. It's not the same team as last year where they were winning consistently by double digits or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, they're 10-2. People have struggled. They still haven't put a complete game together as an entire team. Jalen Hurts doesn't look right. The play calls are all over the place at times on offense and defense. They've had unfortunate injuries, untimely injuries, which they didn't really have to deal with last season until the end of the year when basically everything was already locked up. Mm-hmm. So I think it obviously last week sucked, but we're flushing that down the toilet. Huge game on Sunday night, and hopefully things get better. If they come out on Sunday night and it looks like it did last week, then I'll press the panic button and things will get a little scary. But for now, they're 10-2, first place. Let's just relax and take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay. I promise.
Okay. I agree. That's kind of where I'm at too. It's like, let's hold off, give it at least another week. You know, I'm going to be at the game, get rooting them on. I'm undefeated for what that's worth. I mean, you know, again, there's all streaks eventually get broken, but at least going to AT&T, right. It's like, there's no pressure, but at least going to AT&T Stadium, like the Eagles have always won. So hopefully we keep that up. Curious, because you kind of alluded to it there, but do you even feel like we have an identity for this Eagles team? It feels crazy or strange to even question that, I guess, this late into the season, but it feels so much different, like you were talking about, from last year. If I were to ask you, what's the identity of this team, do you have an answer for that? I mean, where's your mindset as far as what is this team about?
That's the crazy thing is they're 10-2, and we honestly don't have an identity because those first 3.5 weeks before Cam Jurgens got hurt, it seemed like they were going to be the same team as last year. They were running the ball like crazy. It seemed very similar. But now it's just been like they're turning the ball over at a higher rate. I mean, these last couple of weeks it's been a little bit better. But defensively, the pass rush hasn't been the same. The offensive line isn't knocking guys off the ball like it was last year. It's weird, but At the same time, they're 10-2. So would I rather be, I don't know, 7-6 and have an identity, or would I rather be 10-2 and this is what we are? Like, so they're still figuring it out. Like the players have mentioned too that I said it again, they haven't put a complete game together. So hopefully this is the week that they do it. But I'm not as far as concerned as do they have an identity? It's just, can they keep winning, and can they pull it out? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Ultimately, again, it's kind of the end justifies the means, and I'm with you there. I would rather, as odd as it still is, it's like, what is the identity? But I'd much rather be in the driver's seat now at 10-2 than like, hey, we know what our team is, but we might not make playoffs, or we're definitely in jeopardy. So I agree with you on that side. A large part of it, I think, and curious to get your thoughts on this as well, is running the football, right? The physicality, the intensity, play a little more dominant style of football, I guess, than what we've seen. Naturally, I think everybody's talked about it a number of times. We've seen it on Twitter, the picketing outside Novacare Complex, telling Sirianni, run the football. Where do you fall on this? Because I'm not necessarily sure it always comes down to only running the football a ton of times if it's not working. However, as we've seen, Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni, whoever's calling the plays officially or whoever's in charge of that, have not stuck to it. Now, they say that they're going to, but where do you fall on the run the ball argument?
I think running the ball, it's a matter, for me, it's not how many times they run it, it's how they run it. Because it seems like what they're doing is they're still trying to they're running out of shotgun. They're thinking that teams are going to use a defender to stop Jalen Hurts, and it's just not working because he hasn't been the same runner this year. So it comes down to them making adjustments. They've made adjustments what seems like at halftime every game this year, but it would be nice to see them make an adjustment to start a game where maybe they put Jalen under center and they pound the ball that way. Or maybe you see more creative. Their biggest run in the past couple of weeks was that DeAndre Swift run where he came in motion and Jalen just handed him the ball and he went off for 30 or 40 yards, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see, I don't think they need to pound the ball 40 times a game like Seth Joyner's asking them to do, but they just need to
Right.
They need to just be more creative. And I think Dallas Goedert's return is going to help with that because he's a damn good run blocker. And it's just, they need to be more creative in how they do it. It's not necessarily they need to run more than they pass or they need to run DeAndre Swift a million times. It's just be more creative, and I think it'll work.
Yeah. I'm all for however that gets done. It's a combo too, and I guess maybe a follow-up question to that, because you've seen some of the criticism or I don't know. It's so far of how you can go into stats and analytics, and I think we all realize that. Like, you can make the numbers kind of tell about whatever story you want to a certain extent, and so the run blocking and the pass blocking grade for the O-line this year has been worse, and I'm not ready to say that it's near the very bottom of the tier. I think that there's other elements that go into play there, but do you feel like there's a little bit of an element to the O-line struggles, I don't know, just kind of being on the personnel really, and they're not living up to expectations?
Honestly, especially to start the year, that first game or two where Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, they both did not look like themselves. But I think kind of like the secondary on the other side of the ball, it's just continuity has kind of hurt them because they, like I said, those first couple of weeks, they looked really good when Cam Jurgens was in. The second he went out, the running back yards per carry numbers were terrible. Yeah. And that was kind of the narrative that I was driving. But then last week, obviously, Cam Jurgens played and things weren't pretty. So I think it's a combination of everything. I think continuity is key. Hopefully they can keep these same 5 starters for the rest of the year and things will start flowing. But I don't know. It's just, I think the offensive line's okay. I'm not panicking in that regard, but it's just, it comes down to, and I don't want to quote Bill Belichick, especially the way the Patriots are right now, but everybody just needs to do their job. Honestly, it's just, things have looked a little weird at times. They were like jumping the cadence a couple of weeks ago when Cam Jurgens first came back and things like that. It's just, they need to clean up a lot, but it's kind of getting late early in terms of they're going to play Dallas now. And if they struggle in this game, then I think even the locker room's going to start to panic because it wouldn't be a good look.
Yeah, I'm with you. even Jason Kelce, I think a number of players have, in the sense of been like, yeah, there's a little bit of an anxious feel around the locker room, and understandably so, which, again, for a 10-2 team, I don't know that a lot of teams would necessarily be in that point, but we all know, like, they hold themselves to a standard that Jalen Hurts has mentioned just about. I don't know if there's been, maybe 1 week. I don't know that there has really, that Jalen's been like, yeah, we didn't really play to the standard. Like, we won, but we didn't play to the standard, so he keeps on echoing that. But question on Jalen too, the O-line's allowed more pressures, based on the stats and the analytics there, more hits, more sacks, things like that. But Is it on Jalen? Is he taking too long? We've seen him miss some reads, and sure, every quarterback's going to do that, but mainly in the last game against the Niners, missed several reads there, didn't make the right throws, and seemed to be holding the ball forever. Now, the flip side of that argument, I guess, is on the play calling. You got maybe long running or kind of delayed routes there, but where are you at on Jalen Hurts? Is it the play calling? Is it Jalen? Is it a combination for that? Where is that?
I think it's, as with everything else, it's been a combination of everything because that it seemed like things were going in the right direction. Then Lane Johnson missed the game. And now all of a sudden they've taken a step back a little bit. It's just tough because you rely on these core pieces, Dallas Goedert especially. We saw that last week because he would just not throw the ball to Jack Stoll. He would be open, and it's just he's running a little not as clean of routes as Dallas Goedert. And you could see the trust is just not there. He's bailing out of the pocket a little too early. And I think it's just taking the toll on him over the course of the season. People sometimes tell me that I'm a little too critical of Hurts, but it's because he's kind of created that standard that he talks about all the time where we expect him to play at a high level, and now he's getting paid to play at a very high level. So even when these guys are out, he needs to kind of step up. And he can't throw for 170 yards and the Eagles win. That's tough because the running game's not working like it was last year, and he's not running like he was last year. So I think it's just a combination of everything. One thing about last week that I didn't like was we saw Quez Watkins, who I think if you follow me on Twitter, I'm not a big fan of Quez Watkins, but we saw him dominate we saw him dominate the wide receiver 3 snaps, and it seemed like it's because they must have seen something on film where they wanted to throw deep, but they just didn't have the time against that front. And even when they did have the time, Jalen was kind of scared to pull the trigger. So hopefully we see a little bit more of a Lamine Zaccheaus or maybe even Julio Jones instead of Quez Watkins. But it's a little tough. I don't think it's easy to put. I think it's easy to put everything on Jalen Hurts' shoulders and say that he's the issue. But it's a combination of everything like it has been all season long. All
right, we'll see how much of a help the former All-Pro linebacker is, and I think we'll notice a considerable difference. Reminder that my bro Thomas and I will be at the Dallas game, and I'll be repping my A.J. Brown black jersey, so if you see me, feel free to stop and say hi. As always, go Birds. This has been the Philly Special.